Chapter 48. The Manipulation of Familiarity and Attachment Needs. What is the biggest secret of mass reality creation? It is the Familiarity Principle. It's also called the mere exposure effect. Quoting here from Wikipedia. The mere exposure effect is a psychological phenomenon by which people tend to develop a preference for things merely because they are familiar with them. In social psychology, this effect is sometimes called the Familiarity Principle. The effect has been demonstrated with many kinds of things, including words, Chinese characters, paintings, pictures of faces, geometric figures, and sounds. In studies of interpersonal attraction, the more often someone sees a person, the more pleasing and likable they find that person. End quote. Another way to say this: the song you keep hearing on the radio is not played because it's popular. It's popular because it keeps getting played. Consider that last sentence for a moment. It provides a clue to how many other things work and to how the world is run. Popular culture is neither popular nor is it culture. Have you heard of payola? Again, quoting Wikipedia. Payola, in the music industry, is the illegal practice of paying a commercial radio station to play a song without the station disclosing the payment. Under U.S. law, a radio station must disclose songs they were paid to play on the air as sponsored airtime. The number of times the songs are played can influence the perceived popularity of a song, and payola may be used to influence these metrics. Even though it's illegal, record companies find creative ways to pay radio stations for mass exposure of their songs. Thus, indie music brands who did not sign on with big record companies that can afford to pay for airtime must look for other ways of attracting an audience. Regardless of whether you consciously like a song, repeated exposure gets your subconscious to like it in the sense that it's familiar and therefore feels safe and cozy. Even songs you can't stand, if repeated enough, will have your subconscious create familiarity feelings that will affect you to some degree. To some extent, influencers can override the conscious mind to reach your subconscious. Modern social media works on the same principles as payola. Organic reach is prevented. Only people who pay for millions of followers will have millions of followers. If Silicon Valley companies actually allowed organic reach, our popular culture would look very different. Many of our superstars would be unknowns, and many unknowns would be widely acclaimed. In fact, popular culture is neither. That means it's neither popular nor is it culture. The popularity of the top 10 songs, top 10 movies, and top 10 websites at any given time, and whatever is supposedly trending, is manufactured or fabricated. It is not organic. What is truly organic? My work is, for example. In the last 20 years, I have produced close to 0 ads and not paid for marketing. I've let the reach of my work grow organically without any selling or persuasion. That means my success has come more slowly, but it's also more stable, more independent, and it reaches people who dislike repetition, brainwashing as much as I do conscious people. I'm glad that I don't have to keep writing books on the same topic, and I don't have to mail out a shallow newsletter every other day. Abusive people manipulate our attachment needs. Have you ever heard of a case in which a spouse doesn't leave their abusive partner? Most of us have. Their thinking goes something like this: but I know this person. I'm familiar and comfortable with this person. I'm attached to this person. Leaving them and going into the unknown is much more scary than taking a little abuse. And maybe I am a bad person and deserve this abuse. It might seem strange to you, but I've met people who would choose bad but familiar over free. You can also refer to the Stockholm Syndrome. At a low level of consciousness, freedom appears daunting, as if something worse happens if they dare leave their familiar setting. Some abusive people are skilled at manipulating people's attachment needs. Every human being desires the familiar, a sense of belonging, a sense of continuity. An abusive person seeks out weak people in which the need for belonging is strong. Then the abuser can get away with a lot before the person fights back or leaves. People's need for familiarity causes them to stay in relationships they don't really wish to be in, including non-abusive relationships that have gone stale. Free yourself from familiarity hypnosis. Ask yourself, am I staying in my relationship for comfort and familiarity, or out of real love and joy? Do I genuinely like my work, or am I only doing it because I succeeded with it in the past and I know it so well? Do I really love my circle of friends and relatives, or am I only hanging out with them out of familiarity? Do I really love the TV series I'm watching, or only watching because it feels cozy and familiar? For example, I binge-watched 16 seasons of the cartoon Family Guy a couple of years ago, but I don't genuinely like the show. How do I know that? Because I've never watched it alone. When I'm alone, I don't watch anything. I've only watched the show with my wife because she loves it, and it provides a cozy and familiar context after our long day of work. I actually tried watching it alone once, and it elicited no laugh. But when I'm watching it with my wife, it gets a chuckle out of me because the person sitting beside me thinks it's hilarious, and emotions are contagious. I've also never had alcohol alone. That means that alcohol is not my genuine desire. When I'm alone, one of the genuine desires I have is to learn something new, to read or to write. Would I do this if I were alone is a question that helps you determine whether you are being fully authentic. I remember how my wife got me to watch season after season of Family Guy with her. She said, just watch a few episodes and then decide if you like it. See, she was using the familiarity principle. They could also call it acquired taste. I couldn't stand it for the first few episodes, but then it kind of grew on me, and so then I watched it out of habit. I think we watched an entire 16 seasons back then within just a year. I share this so that you see that every one of us uses brainwashing techniques, even if innocently. Also, I'm not saying that familiarity such as this is a bad thing. What I am saying is that it can be abused. Creating a drug addiction works in the same way. If a drug dealer can get you to try the drug several times, they can build a familiarity. Even if you don't like the taste or feeling at first, a few more hits and the body starts getting used to it. Soon you believe you need it. So yes, it is true that, to some extent, you can get into and learn to like almost anything. But that's different from genuine attraction, joy, and love. Things that you really like don't require continual repetition and exposure for you to like or believe them. Many have never heard of the familiarity principle or mere exposure effect. I believe that's by design. If people knew how it worked, they would realize the enormous power of mass media and marketing PR firms to create mass reality. There are many things people believe that don't even exist except in their minds. If I listed them all here, it would upset a lot of people. And there are other things that do exist that are not believed, for the same reasons. Why are some people immune to repetition brainwashing? Because they have worked on themselves spiritually. Deep inside, they have called for truth. They develop healthy attachments and are willing to release attachment when needed. They are willing to let go of familiarity when needed, stepping into the unknown. Breaking your routine of action, activity, thinking, and feeling every now and then is a good way to prevent being manipulated. People keep asking me, "Who is your main teacher, Fred?" But I don't have a main teacher. And they ask, "What's your primary method of reality creation?" But I don't have a primary method. It's better to stay flexible without attaching too much to one path, one method, or one source of information. The last 3 books I wrote are a good example of breaking routine. They venture into unfamiliar territory. I hope that your life, too, sometimes ventures into unfamiliar territory. That is how you prevent the familiarity effect of hypnotizing you into complacency. Stay awake.